an original MCM production.
And I'm really excited today to have Alex Molinaroli, our president, chairman, CEO of Johnson Controls, present. Yeah, this has been in the works for about a year, and I'll just say that, as long as I've been with Rotary, it's been roughly 10 years now. I'd sit down at the table and someone would come to me and say, you're with Johnson Controls. I say, yeah, I'm with Johnson Controls. They say, it's a great company. I own some of your stock. And I always have the same response. I say, it is a great company, and please buy some more of our stock. So I've done that, and I'll do that if you say it again. But I'm really pleased to introduce Alex. He joined the company in 1983, and prior to that, to his current position, he served as president of the Power Solutions business, a role that he held from 2007 to 2013. Alex was elected as a corporate officer in 2004. He's held positions of increasing responsibility in a wide range of areas within the building efficiency business. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Computer and Electrical Engineering from the University of South Carolina and his Master's in Business Administration from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. He also serves on the board of Interstate Batteries and is a founding member of the Electrification Coalition. Please join me in welcoming Alex Molinaroli as our speaker today.
President Dan told me that I needed to be the best speaker of the year, but that works out pretty well since I'm the first speaker of the year, so we're in pretty good shape. I'll be good till next week. I have a kind of a stock presentation. Can you hear me? Is this the right one? I have a stock presentation, but I'd like to, get through it fairly quickly. So if you have some questions, we could probably get to what you might really be interested in. But I would be happy to answer any questions. So let me talk a little bit about Johnson Controls. I'll put a little color around what we're doing today, because we're the same company we always been, but we're changing every day, and I think that's probably important these days. Today we call ourselves an industrial company, a multi-industrial company. I think the market would see us as an automotive company. And as you know, you probably heard, we're spinning off our automotive business. So to a large extent, we're going back to the roots of the original Johnson Controls. We'll have two divisions. Our battery business and our original building efficiency business. So one of the things that that happens when you work for Johnson Controls, we're a pretty large company, and we're in a lot of places, but people really don't know us unless they know us by the products that we sell or the services that we provide. So depending on where you are, you might recognize us outside of Milwaukee. You probably recognize us because you see a truck. You're not really sure what we do. You're not sure if we're a cable company or what it is that Johnson Controls does, because you see these trucks running around. If you're in Detroit or any of the automotive centers in the world, you'd know Johnson Controls is an automotive company. And if you're in the battery business or the aftermarket business, retail, you would know us as a battery company. And that's kind of how we're known, because we're not a consumer brand company. So as much as we might be a staple in a place like Milwaukee, it's not a company that people really realize. We're a commercial business-to-business company, very similar to a lot of the folks here. In fact, our relationships probably are with a lot of the folks here, and usually our local relationships. I'll get to that in a minute. A big part of what we do is we apply technology. So whether it's our battery business that applies technology, because technology is changing, the drive trains are changing for our customers, the OE customers, moving from combustion engines to hybrids and electrical, and whoever knows what's next, and the demands for electrification, even beyond just electric powertrains, is changing dramatically. So that business is changing, and we need to apply our products. just like you need to apply your products. Our building efficiency business, we sell products day in and day out, but those products are typically applied through our branch organization where we're dealing with customers each and every day and hopefully solving their problems. And then in the automotive business, it's probably a business that's a little more of supplier orientation. Essentially, that's one business that we have where we have maybe a dozen customers, and those dozen customers truly are global. And so that's a little bit different related to our other businesses. And I'll come back to the automotive business in a minute and some of the changes. So in our automotive business today, we're really a seating business. The automotive business that we have been in the past included our electronics business, so the dashboard and console that would be in your vehicle. HomeLink used to be a product that we made. We divested ourselves of that about 2 years ago. We also divested our interiors business, and our interiors business would be the kind of what wraps around the vehicle. And we created a joint venture with our China partner. And the business that we still are a part of is our seating business. We're the largest seating manufacturer in the world for vehicles. We have about a third of all the seats in the world, and we're very, very strong with the OEs, particularly in Europe and in Asia. Actually, our market share is probably stronger outside of the Detroit automakers than it is with the Detroit automakers. But most of you have driven in a vehicle that has our seats. I'm pretty sure that most of you have driven in a vehicle that has our batteries. We have a very, very large share of batteries for vehicles, mostly for starter batteries. And if you went to AutoZone, or if you went to Walmart, if you went to Napa, if you went to Advance, went to O'Reilly's, went to Sears, or if you have just about any vehicle that's an OE vehicle, you went to a service shop, Interstate Battery, where we're a partner with Interstate Battery, you have our battery. And so we have a very, very strong battery business in North America and Europe. In Europe, we go under two labels. We actually do have brands in Europe. Varta, and if you're in Europe, that's a well-recognized battery name. It is the premium brand. And Bosch, our business is actually a joint venture in Europe with Bosch Company. And so all the Bosch batteries that are in Europe would be Johnson Controls batteries. And then in our building efficiency business, we have our controls product, which is our original business, and then we have York HVAC equipment. It was primarily what our business is. We apply that with plenty of services. That business is probably more of a local business than any of our other businesses. If you're near Milwaukee, you probably recognize us mostly from our controls and HVAC background. 130,000 employees. If I gave this presentation a year ago, it'd say 175,000 employees. So we've gone through quite a bit of changes. I talked about some of the divestitures that we've made. One of the other divestitures we made is we sold off our workplace solutions business, our business that manages facilities, to C.B. Richard Ellis. And that business was a people business. It had 30, 40,000 people with it, and we divested that business about 4 or 5 months ago. And the reason that we're going through our change within our company is not just for change's sake, but one of the challenges that all multi-industrials have today is really an identity. You know, as a shareholder, you have choices to buy stocks. You have the ability to buy, if you wanted to buy a stock in a battery company and a HVAC company and an automotive stock, you could just go out and buy those things. You don't need a multi-industrial to do that. And so if you have a multi-industrial and if you're not able to create value across your enterprise, you're really challenged. And so you see that today in the form of activist activity, where you see companies being broken up all the time. One of the things that we decided about 3 years ago is that we were not going to be a victim to activists, that we were going to be our own activists. And so what we've done over the last 3 years has been on a journey to build an identity that allows us to have synergy across our businesses. And when we looked at our businesses, we decided we wanted to be primarily a manufacturer, and we wanted to make sure that we were a manufacturer at scale. And so the kinds of products that we want to make are the kind of products that allow us to have scale, take advantage of our geographic reach, and then make sure that we're able to apply those products. We're really not an R&D company, we're really an applications company. And so when you look at the two parts of the business that we really are getting out of, we got out of the services only business. We want to be in the service business, but we want to be in the service business servicing, either servicing our technology or using our technology to provide services. Being in a service-only business, which is what our Global Workplace Solutions business was really not something that we were able to add a whole lot of value to. And so we sold that to C.B. Richard Ellis, and I think it's a good home for our employees. And then our automotive business, the reason that we're divesting ourselves of our automotive business is that when you look at, from a shareholder perspective, when you look at our businesses, and you want to make an investment and you can't figure out if Johnson Controls is a multi-industrial, do we compare ourselves with companies like Ingersoll Rand or UTC or GE, or do we compare ourselves with our automotive peers? It becomes something that creates a real challenge from a shareholder value perspective. Because what happens is the risk that's in an automotive business, because it's a highly cyclical business, ends up getting applied to all of your businesses. And so we end up trading at a discount because of that. And so it was just a matter of time that we either decided that we were going to have to be, call ourselves an automotive business and just be one, or break the business up into an opportunity where both businesses could succeed. So on October 3rd of next year, myself and Bruce McDonald, who will be the CEO of our new automotive business, well, I think the plan is either the opening bell or the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange will be ringing together, because that'll be the first day of a new company that's our automotive business, and the remaining Johnson Controls, which will be our battery business and our buildings business. One of the things that I was asked to talk about is, doing business across the world, and what my perspective on that is. And of course, my perspective on doing business anywhere is that it's all, and you know this because you're here in this room, it's all really about relationships. In the end, you're going to be forced to have competitive products and competitive technology. I mean, that's ante. That's what it's going to require for you to be able to participate in the marketplace. But the differentiator is going to be the local relationships. And you can't just have a relationship and call it local. You can't claim a local relationship. Relationships come, they're earned every day. And so you have to be local. And so for us, in 150 countries, to try to be local in 150 countries is quite a challenge, because you want to leverage your scale as a global company, but you also want to be able to have the kind of relationships that are required to be local. And I think that's the challenge in a business. But what I found is, and I've worked in 2 of our divisions, and I've worked across all of our company, that it's really, in the end, not a whole lot different anywhere. People want to know you, they want to trust you, they want to know that you stand behind your products and your services, and they buy from the company, but I think more often than not, they're really buying from the individual. And I think that at Johnson Controls, that really is our secret sauce. And there's a culture at Johnson Controls that works for us and against us. I think it's a culture that is that people would tell you that we may not get it right the first time, and I don't like that part of the culture, but we stick with it and get it, and stick with the job and make sure that we never leave a customer hanging. And I think that has served us well for 130 years. What we want to work on, though, is make sure that we get it right the first time. And I don't know that it's necessarily an issue for us, but it's something that has become more important when you think about the type of quality requirements and the pace at which things change in the world. That's very, very important for us to manufacture products that work every time, first time. I mean, imagine if your battery didn't work today. I mean, you wouldn't know you had a battery, you wouldn't even think about it until it didn't work. And so those are the kinds of things that are pretty important. And as it relates to being local, I mean, this is a rendering of a building that we're building, or a headquarters building in Shanghai. It'll be finished a year from March. We're actually topping it off this coming month. And it really is, it signifies to our local customers and to the local community, meaning Asia, China specifically, that we are not just a multi-industrial that wants to do business in China. About a third of our business, mostly unconsolidated, is in Asia, and about 2/3 of that is in China. And so if you look at our business, we are local. We are seen as local in China. And what we need to make sure is that we manage our business there just as we would manage our business here. We can't run our business in China or anywhere else from Milwaukee. And so, this really kind of represents to the market and to our employees and to our customers that our commitment to Asia. If you look at what's going to happen over the next 10 years, and you look at the middle class population, there's a few things that are going to happen. One is that most people are going to be living in the cities, and most people are going to be living in Asia. And most of the growth of wealth and the middle class, about 3/4 to 4/5 of all of it is going to be in Asia. And so if you think about a company that's 130 years old and it's a leader in what we do, because we're a global company, if we don't establish ourselves as a leader in Asia, we're not going to be able to make that claim 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's the largest battery market in the world already. It's the largest automotive market in the world from an OE perspective. It's almost as large as Europe and North America combined. And then when you look at our buildings business, we already have 2 competitors in China that are larger than any of our other competitors in the world. And so when you think about our business from a global perspective and a scale perspective, it might be different than your business, but what's very important is in order to have scale and to have products and have the capabilities that you need, you have to not just have a presence in a place in Asia or China, you have to be there. Now, of course, being in China is, it's not helping our stock today. So we claim that, that our leadership in China, and of course you see what's happening in the marketplace. But if you think of the long term and you think about where we need to be, it's important for us to be able to make those investments. And so as our business changes and we become more and more global, and less dependent on North America and Europe to achieve our objectives, what's going to happen is it's going to be more and more important for us to be able to attract the kinds of talent that we needed to be successful. And that's really where, when you think about Milwaukee and you think about Johnson Controls, Milwaukee's going through a tremendous amount of change. And I think it's very positive. I mean, I think there's still a lot of haves and have-nots in Milwaukee, so we have a lot to work on. But I do think that there's an opportunity for Milwaukee to differentiate itself, and Johnson Controls wants to be a part of that. But our perspective on Milwaukee is that it needs to be global friendly. It needs to be a place where we can have our German expats, our Chinese expats, our Japanese expats, our colleagues from Mexico. They need to be able to come here and feel welcome and be able to get around town and be able to eat the kind of food that they want to eat. And so from our perspective, in order to have that kind of community, it's important for us to be engaged. Because that might be a little unique to some of the companies that are here in town. And the other thing that's more important is young people, they want to work for a company that's socially responsible, and they also like to work and live in a place that they can enjoy and more often than not move into urban environments. And so it's very important that Milwaukee continues on this revitalization that's going to. And so I personally have tried to be engaged in that process as much as I can, because we want to be a part of the local community too. So that's really the end of my formal presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions I can or take any advice that anyone has. I certainly don't claim to know it all. Hi, Ian. I knew you were going to ask a question.
Thank you for taking the time.
Well, I mean, first off, we got to get to a point where we don't sell Milwaukee when we're out in the rest of the world or trying to get somebody to come to work at Johnson Controls in Milwaukee. We'll back up a little bit. A lot of times the people that we get come from the Midwest and want to come home. And there's only so many people that fit that qualification. The other thing that you do is when you talk about Milwaukee from a global perspective, you usually say, it's right near Chicago. And you sort of explain it that way. And we got to get past that. And there's a few things that have to happen. I mean, I think Milwaukee is a great city. We have to work on our image a little bit, be a little less humble and market ourselves. But the other thing I think is there's some infrastructure things. I mean, I think that the airport's an issue when you think about travel, global travel for a company like ours. But when you get past that, I mean, the one thing, that most important thing that I think we can do is, it really comes down to, this needs to be a safe place to live, and the downtown area needs to be safe. Most of the people that are expats that come to from Johnson Controls end up living in the city. They're more comfortable with that environment. And if you look at our city, it's got a lot of great things going on. But I think we have some work to do as it relates to, the divisions of what's safe and what's not. I heard something on the radio. I can't even believe it. I don't know if it's true that 54 cars were stolen in the last 5 days or something. I can't even believe that's true. But I heard it on the radio, so it must be true. And so I think that Milwaukee has a lot to offer. We have to market it, but I think there's some infrastructure issues. But I think the most pressing issue that we have, I think, is the downtown area that needs to be a safe place to live and work. Yes. The question was about ethics training around the world. When you do business as an American company, a U.S. company, you certainly are under different rules and regulations than some of your foreign competitors, particularly as you get to emerging markets. When you get to emerging markets, and I'm absolutely sure it was no different in the U.S. when we went through our Industrial Revolution. I mean, you can go back and read about it, that when you go to these markets, they have different market practices. And when you go through different distribution. And so what you really have to do is hold yourself to the same standard, but you have to make sure that you bring people along. And I think that what you have to understand, we recently did a joint venture, and what I'm referring to this morning, with Hitachi. Hitachi's a Japanese company, great culture, great ethics, but it's a Japanese company, and it has a different way of managing its employees, and it has a different expectation as it relates to the Japanese rules and regulations. And so when we do business around the world, our expectations don't change. What it does is it sometimes tells us that the market may not be mature enough for us to enter in, because the market practices are a little bit different. But when we think about our employees anywhere in the world, we don't hold them to a different standard. The standard that we hold our employees to is to the same standard anywhere. And I think that that becomes a real challenge as a global company, as a U.S. company, particularly when local practices aren't the same. But it's not something that we plan to compromise. But it's a challenge every day. It's a challenge every day because people are grown up in a different environment and have competitors that are doing different things, and the market practices are different. So I think that from my perspective, it doesn't change Johnson Controls, but it probably limits maybe some of the markets that we participate in. Yes. Yeah. So the question was about taxes. Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's when you look at any global multi-industrial company, there's lots of competition that you have. But when you immediately are paying a 15% higher rate for not only the income that you make, but when you talk about income that you make in different parts of the world, and it's also hard to use your cash, than you are in different parts of the world, you immediately open yourself up to being acquired or competing in to a different standard than your competition as a global company. And so you see what's happening. You see where many multi-industrials are moving to a foreign domicile, and it's not because they're not patriotic. It's not because they don't want to pay their taxes. They just want to pay a fair tax and have to be able to compete. And so I think that it's unfortunate. Because I don't think it's going to change. I mean, I can't see anything in the near term. I mean, if you look at, you have one party that says that we want to fix the tax structure so that we can be more competitive, and we want to have another party that says that we want to make sure that you don't cheat on your taxes when you're trying to compete. And the two parties don't seem to find a way to be able to compromise this one issue. So unfortunately, our political environment is one that I don't see it fixing itself, but it's a real disadvantage for American-owned or U.S.-owned companies. Yes? And I think if you were going to do an inversion, you would do that based off of a business case, not just off the taxes themselves. depending on the company, depending on the competitive environment, it may be something that you need to do, but you really have to, you just don't go out one day and wake up and say, I'm a foreign domicile. It really, because you end up doing a merger or something with another company. Yes, sir?
What role will Johnson Controls play in the development?
The electrification of automobiles will continue. But it's going to be a spectrum. I mean, we're always going to read about gigafactories and Tesla and all that comes with it, But I think they made 17,000 cars last quarter, and if you look at that business and you think about a scale business, our predictions, and it's driven off of really one thing: regulations and incentives. If you look at regulations, CO2 emissions regulations in Asia, China specifically, Europe, and then the EPA regulations that drive the U.S. miles per gallon, what you see is that the automakers have a path to be able to achieve their fleet requirements through 2020, through 2025, for the most part, being able to use hybrid vehicles. We're big in start-stop vehicles, but also anything from lightweighting to low-resistant tires to fuel-injective systems. And so what's happened is people are going to continue to use their current assets as long as they can. Our projections, we do a lot of modeling, obviously, because of the business that we're in, is that the electric vehicles will still be a niche market, for at least another 10 years. It gets a lot of headlines, and it's a great vehicle, but right now I don't know that you can make any money in it. And that's another part of our business, is that we'd rather be in a business that makes money. Now we do sell electric batteries for lithium-ion batteries for hybrids, full hybrids and mild hybrids. But we're not a large-scale player in that market. But the market itself right now is one that we don't see maturing for quite some time. I sat at a meeting that was people like myself sat around a table, and people said, "That's crazy. I've got a Tesla, and I got a Tesla, and I got a Tesla." I said, "Yeah, but we're not normal people. This is not the normal market. Why do you have one? Because it has a lot of get up and go, because it's really cool, because I want to be seen in it. But that's not, with the mass market. Actually, hybrid sales are actually going down, not up. And you look at, the cost of oil, it's even going to delay it even further. So, I think the technology is there. The cost is not. It's prohibitive at this point. Yes, sir. But, well, first off, I'm very proud of our company and our involvement in the community. I don't think that. I look at, and I'm very proud of a lot of the companies. This past year, I happened to be one of the co-chairs for the United Way, and so I got a chance to meet a lot of people and see a lot of different great companies. And you look at what's happening in the community, and you see a lot of great people doing great things. But there is there's a fundamental change that needs to happen. There is a kind of a division of, where people are employed and where they aren't, what's safe and what's not safe, and we've got to find. I don't have the answer, but my view is that companies like Johnson Controls, I had an opportunity to visit with Rockwell Automation. They need to be part of the community, not only with their treasurer but with their people, and I'm very proud. I didn't. That's a cultural thing I didn't start, for sure. It's something that's been a big part of Johnson Controls for a long time, but it's going to take all of us, and it's something I think that we've got a long way to go before we can say that this is. I don't think our problems are any less than any other city you see in the U.S. today. So I've come a long way as it relates to my perspective in the world, because that's where that was my reality. That was the world that I grew up in, and I think that we're all a product of our experiences, and I think that we all should buy a ticket and go out and see some of these people, because they're all good people. Anyway, thank you. I'm over my time. I appreciate it.
an MCM production.